Hi everyone. Today's topic is structure and function of the liver and the gallbladder. Let us discuss it under the following headings: Introduction, Physiological Anatomy, Hepatobiliary System, Functions of liver and the gallbladder, and the applied aspects. Liver, it is the largest gland in the body and it weighs approximately 1.5 kilograms or 1/40th of our total body weight. Anatomically, the liver has been divided into right and the left lobes. Right lobe is much larger in size because it has caudate and the quadrate lobes. So the left lobe is smaller, and each of these lobes has blood supply from the hepatic artery and portal vein and their own venous system, and also there is a biliary drainage. Liver is the center of all the metabolism. All the nutrients passes through the liver. So the metabolism of all the nutrients happens here. Most of the drugs is metabolized here. Structure of the liver. Liver has the liver lobule, which is hexagonal in shape. Here you can see the hexagonal shape, right? Here you can see the hexagonal shape. So just watch this hexagonal shape. There are about 1 lakh liver lobules in the liver. The liver lobule consists of the central vein. Here is the central vein and liver plates or the hepatocytes, and then the sinusoids. The sinusoids here you can see, which is blue in color. This is the sinusoids. In the portal triads, what are all included in the portal triad? Portal triad includes a bile duct, here which is green in color, and the hepatic artery, and then the portal vein. So this is the hepatic artery, and this is the portal vein, hepatic artery. So all these three structures together called as a portal triads. Here you can see in each corner of it. Again, the structure is given in different pictures. This is the central vein, and here you can see the hepatocytes or the hepatic plates. So these are the hepatic plates, and these are the sinusoids. Here you can see the sinusoids, and here in another angle it is given just to know how the liver lobule is formed. The central vein, and this is the hepatocytes, the most important liver cell, and in between that is the sinusoids, from where the portal vein reaches the central vein through the sinusoids. Together, along with the portal vein, along with the hepatic artery, together it moves in the sinusoids and reaches the hepatocytes. Sorry, it reaches the central vein in bile ducts. So bile duct is placed, bile canalically is placed between the hepatocytes, and from the hepatocytes towards the periphery it reaches the bile ducts. Structural characteristics. The structural and the functional unit of the liver is the liver lobule of Astynis, which is hexagonal in structure and it is about 1 lakh in number. This is the liver lobule. There are 1 lakh liver lobules present in the liver, and all the lobules has hepatocytes in columns. Here you can see the hepatocytes. These are the hepatic plates of hepatocytes. Between these columns, you can see the bile canaliculi. Between the hepatocytes, there lies the bile canaliculi. So here the bile is formed from the hepatocytes and it gets into the bile canaliculi and reaches the bile duct. So bile duct is present in the portal triad. So here it is from the center and it reaches the bile ductule in the periphery, which is in the periphery. Hepatocytes, they are tunneled by the blood sinusoids, so that drains into the central vein. Here you can see the portal vein and the hepatic artery. So together they drain into the sinusoids. So these sinusoids are tunneled in the, you can see, hepatocytes, right? So from the periphery it reaches the center where the central vein is there. Hepatic sinusoids, as we have discussed, so the blood from the portal vein and the hepatic artery from the periphery, so it gets tunneled in the hepatocytes. So this is the hepatic sinusoids, and blood from the periphery reaches the center to the central vein. Blood flow, you can see, from the portal vein and the hepatic artery, it flows towards the center to the central vein, and you can see the flow of the bile. So it is formed in between the hepatocytes and released into the bile canaliculi, and it reaches the periphery to the bile duct. So here is the portal vein, and along with the hepatic artery, it reaches the sinusoids. It is a wide blood vessels, and here it has in the sinusoids it has the Kupffer cells. So they are the tissue macrophage, which is very important to detoxify the blood. If there is any microbe, so these Kupffer cells are very important to filter the blood. Here you can again visualize the flow of direction of the blood and also the bile. So blood, it is from the periphery towards the center, and bile you can see the that is secreted in the hepatocytes and it moves towards the periphery to the bile duct. And this is one of the beautiful picture of the liver lobule, which clearly shows all its parts. Liver architecture. So sinusoids, they are lined by the endothelial cells. You can see this endothelial cells, and along with that there is the Kupffer cells. So as we have discussed, this Kupffer cell plays an important immune function. In the periphery of each lobule there present the portal triad, right, which includes the portal vein, portal hepatic artery and the bile duct. Perisinusoidal space, or the space of Dissay. It is between the endothelium of the sinusoid and the hepatocyte. So this is the space of Disty. It is occupied by numerous villi, microvilli of the hepatocytes, and it also here is the place where the fat and the vitamin A are stored. It is a site of substance exchange between the blood and the hepatocyte. So this space has significant clinical importance. Zones of the lobules. So each acinus has been considered to have three zones. Here you can see. In the zone 1, this is the zone 1 which is marked with the green color. So the central portion of the acinus immediately surrounding the terminal hepatic arteriole and the terminal portal venule. So this area is considered that it is very well oxygenated. So here is a different picture. Here you can see the zone 1. Zone 3, it is the most peripheral part. Here it is. So which is away from the portal tract, right? So from where the vessels from the outside it reaches the center. So from the outside it reaches the inside. So here it is very well oxygenated and here it is little oxygenated. So the portion which is away from the very well oxygenated area, so they are most susceptible to the anoxic injury. In zone 2 is the intermediate zone, so which is present in between the zone 1 and zone 3. Here it is, this zone is moderately oxygenated. Zone 1 is very well oxygenated, zone 2 is moderately oxygenated, and zone 3 is it is the least oxygenated zone, and so they are susceptible to the anoxic injury. How can all these hepatocytes perform these same variety of the task? How is it possible? So how is the liver is functioning like this? So it is because of the how it is presented, right? As it is divided into three different zones, it performs its function accordingly. So zone 1 does the function which are all need more oxygen. So the metabolism which requires more oxygen will be done in zone 1, and all the other mechanisms which needs least oxygenation, that will happen in the zone 3. So the classic hepatic lobule, it drains the blood from the portal vein and hepatic artery to the central vein. So portal lobule, it drains bile from the hepatocytes to the bile duct. So you can see the direction of the flow. In portal acinus, here you can see the how it is divided into different lobes, supplies the oxygenated blood to the hepatocytes. So initially the hepatocyte receives more oxygen, then as the flow happens towards the central vein, the oxygen level slowly decreases. So the mechanisms which require more oxygen happens in the zone 1, and moderately which needs will happen in the zone 2, and in the zone 3 the mechanism which needs very less oxygenation, that happens in the zone 3. So the in the zone 1 the amino acid catabolism, gluconeogenesis, glycogen degradation, so the cholesterol synthesis, so the formation of the urea, bile acid dependent canalicular bile flow, so the oxidative energy metabolism, all these things happen in zone 1. In zone 3, glycolysis, glycogen synthesis from glucose, liponeogenesis, bile acid synthesis, formation of the ketones, glutamine synthesis, bile acid independent canalicular bile flow happens here. So these functions, all the function of the liver is area dependent, and there are different cells which performs different function of the liver. So the liver receives blood from the two sources. One is the arterial blood. This arterial blood comes from the hepatic artery. So this provides the oxygen supply and also carries the blood-borne metabolites from the liver processing for the liver processing, and is mostly by the hepatic artery. Second one is the second source is the hepatic portal vein. So the venous blood draining from the gastrointestinal system. So from there it is carried to the portal vein to the liver for processing and storage of newly absorbed nutrients. So there are mesenteric vein which collects the nutrients from the gastrointestinal tract, and it brings all those nutrients to the liver through the portal vein. So blood leaves the liver through the hepatic vein. So remember these three things: hepatic artery, portal vein, and the hepatic vein. So two input and one output. So here you can see the portal vein, so which receives blood from the mesenteric veins, superior and inferior mesenteric veins. So it collects the nutrients from there and it reaches the liver. This is the first source. The second one is the hepatic artery. So from this blood, the liver is going to get oxygenated. So both the portal vein and the hepatic artery leaves the liver as hepatic vein, and it reaches the heart through the inferior vena cava. Hepatic circulation. So liver receives 20 to 25% of the blood from the hepatic artery, which is a branch of the celiac trunk, and then the portal vein, the blood is around 75 to 80%. So the portal vein receives blood from the mesenteric vein and the splenic vein, and then hepatic vein. So hepatic vein drains, sinusoids drains the blood into the central vein. So all the central vein joins to form the hepatic vein. Finally, the hepatic vein drains into the inferior vena cava, which in the inferior vena cava uh, sends the blood to the right atrium. Blood supply, so the blood flow is 1500 ml per minute. The weight of the liver is 1500, and also the blood flow is 1500 ml per milliliter. Portal vein, the blood is received 75%, and from there to the interlobular vein, and then hepatic artery, which is only 25%, and from there to the interlobular artery. So both the portal vein and the hepatic artery falls into the sinusoids. From there to the central vein, and then to the sublobular vein, and then finally to the hepatic vein. From the hepatic vein, it reaches the inferior vena cava, hepatobiliary system, intrahepatic biliary system, bile secreted by the hepatic cells into the canaliculi, which form the hexagonal network around the liver cells. So here it is the bile canaliculi, which is in green color here. And here is a portal triad, which is the bile duct. This is the bile canaliculi, which is in between the hepatocytes. So bile secreted from the hepatocytes into the bile canaliculi reaches the bile duct, which is in the periphery. At the periphery, the bile canaliculi becomes continuous with the interlobular ductules. It joins together to form the hepatic duct, and bile is funneled into the gallbladder through the common hepatic duct. So remember here all the bile ducts together forms the interlobular duct, and finally forms the hepatic duct. Bile duct together forms the hepatic duct. Extrahepatic biliary apparatus, the gallbladder. Here you can see the gallbladder, which is pear-shaped sac near the liver. So beneath the liver, you can see the gallbladder. Here it stores the bile. Its capacity is 30 to 50 milliliter. The extrahepatic ducts are the common hepatic duct. So the bile duct together forms this common hepatic duct. So this is the cystic duct, which connects the gallbladder to the common hepatic duct. And this is the common bile duct together with the cystic duct and the common hepatic duct. It forms the common bile duct. Extrahepatic duct, the ducts which are outside the liver, they call this the extrahepatic ducts. The hepatic duct, so there is two hepatic duct, one is right and the left hepatic duct from the liver. So from the two sides of the liver, it joins to form the common hepatic duct. This is the common hepatic duct, and then cystic duct, which is 4 centimeter in length, which connects the neck of the gallbladder to the common hepatic duct to form the common bile duct. Cystic duct, common hepatic duct together forms the common bile duct. Common bile duct, which is 8 centimeter in the length, so it joins the pancreatic duct. Here you can see the pancreatic duct. This is the common bile duct. Together it forms the common hepatopancreatic duct or ampulla of Vater. It opens into the second part of the duodenum at major duodenal papillae. Here you can see the opening. Here is the sphincter present, sphincter of Corti. The passage of the bile from the hepatocyte, the bile is released into the bile canaliculi, so to the peripheral bile duct, and from there to the interlobular bile duct, from there to the left and the right hepatic ducts. Together, it forms a common hepatic duct. So this common hepatic duct along the cystic duct, which is from the gallbladder, which forms a common bile duct, and finally it forms a duodenum. It falls into the duodenum, second part of the duodenum. The liver has got the considerable physiological reserve So even if the liver 75 to 80% of the liver is removed, but even then the liver can do the normal physiological function. So the liver possesses a great regeneration power. So the original liver mass can be restored even after removing the three-fourths of the liver. So this remaining liver can be restored within 6 to 8 weeks. So this is because due to the active mitosis. So functions of the liver, it possesses the secretory functions, metabolic function, detoxification and protective function, storage function, excretory function, synthetic function. The liver, which is a major exocrine gland, it also secretes bile for the digestion and absorption of the fat. The secretory function of the liver, hemoglobin gets converted into the bilirubin in the liver and finally gets converted into bile, which is stored in the gallbladder and gets released later into the duodenum. Liver is a major exocrine gland, so the conjugation of the bilirubin happens in the liver. So it is the bilirubin finally gets secreted as the bile into the hepatocyte. So from the hepatocyte into the bile canaliculi. So this bile is very important for the digestion and the absorption of the fat. Metabolic function, so carbohydrate. So what happens when we need energy? When there is an sudden emergency where we need energy, what will happen? Where will the help come from? Where will the first help come from when we are starving and we need energy, immediate energy? Where will the help come from? It is from the liver. So liver is the first one that releases the energy at the first sight. So whenever we feel stress or hunger, so immediately the glucose is released from the liver. So liver is the first source of the glucose. So it releases the glucose by means of gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis, and also by glycogenesis. And here the metabolism of alcohol, all the alcohol metabolism happens in the liver. That is why the more intake of alcohol, excessive intake of alcohol damages the hepatocytes. So the interconversion of the monosaccharides also happens here. So glucose, sucrose, fructose, all the interconversion of the monosaccharides happens in the liver. Moving on to the fat, degradation of fat. The liver contains the enzyme called lipoprotein lipase, which hydrolyzes the triglycerides, cholesterol, and the phospholipids, and it forms the free fatty acids. Beta oxidation, it is the process which oxidizes the fatty acids into the acetic acid. So this occurs in the mitochondria. And then synthesis of the fat also happens in the liver. So the liver synthesizes triglycerides from the carbohydrates, cholesterol and phospholipids are synthesized from the unused free fatty acids. Saturated fatty acids are synthesized from the active acid, acetoacetic acid. So this is through the Krebs cycle. And then finally the lipoproteins such as the low density, high density and very low density lipoproteins, and also the chylomicrons are also synthesized in the liver from the amino acids. Moving on to the protein. In man, the protein turnover involves the breakdown and resynthesis of 80 to 100 grams of tissue protein per day, and it is 50% part of it occurs in the liver. So the most important activities there happens deamination of the amino acids, and this is essential for the production of the energy and their conversion into the carbohydrates and fat. So urea formation, so liver is the main site of the urea formation from the ammonia, and formation of all the non-essential amino acids by the transamination of the keto acids. Albumin is solely resynthesized in the liver, and also to some extent the alpha and the beta globulins. Detoxifying and the protective functions. The Kupffer cell, they effectively remove the bacteria and also the foreign bodies from the portal circulation. This is the blood cleansing action of the liver. Liver also detoxifies certain drugs by their oxidation or hydrolysis or reduction or conjugation, and excretes all these things through the bile. Degradation of the drugs as we have discussed. Storage function. So liver stores the glucose in the form of glycogen and also vitamin B12 and vitamin A. Liver also acts as a blood ion buffer and ion storage medium. So it stores around 60% of the excess of iron, mainly in the form of ferritin and also partly in the form of hemosiderin. It also stores vitamin B12 and vitamin A as we have discussed. Excretory function. So certain exogenous dyes like brom sulfathalide and rose bengal dye are exclusively excreted through the liver cells, and also by conjugation of the unwanted substances, and also the heavy metals are excreted. Synthetic function. Liver is a site for the synthesis of plasma proteins, especially albumin, and to some extent alpha and beta globulins, and some blood coagulation factors. Liver is responsible for the conversion of free prothrombin to the active prothrombin. So it activates the prothrombin in the presence of vitamin K. So here the liver also produces some of the clotting factors. That is the fibrinogen, clotting factor 5, 7, 9, and 10. Enzymes such as alkaline phosphatase, serum glutamic oxaloacetic transaminase, and serum glutamic pyruvic transaminase, serum isocitrate dehydrogenase. So it also secretes the enzymes and also the urea. The liver removes the ammonia from the body to synthesize the urea. Cholesterol also gets synthesized here. Acute phase reactants. There are acute phase reactants which are secreted by the or synthesized by the liver. And hormone binding proteins. So there are proteins which binds with the hormones. So all the hormones have hormone binding proteins. So to increase their half-life period, it binds with the hormone binding proteins to stay longer. So those proteins, most of the hormone binding proteins are synthesized in the liver. Bile salts are also synthesized in the liver, which plays an important role in the absorption of the fat. Myelina's function, reservoir of blood, it stores around 650 milliliter of blood and also helps in the regulation of the blood volume. So erythropoiesis, so in the fetal life, liver plays an important role in the erythropoiesis and destruction of the RBC, which where the hemoglobin gets converted into the biliverdin and then bilirubin. Here it happens. Hormone metabolism, the inactivation of some hormones like insulin, glucagon, and vasopressin, reduction in conjugation of the hormones like cortisol, aldosterone, estrogen, and testosterone. Endocrine function, so it converts the vitamin D3. So the 25 dioxy vitamin D3. So it does the major role of converting the vitamin D3. Conversion of the thyroid hormone also happens here, and also it does the thermal regulation, which is one of the important function of the liver. It produces large amount of heat. Regulation of release of bile from the gallbladder. So bile is a digestive juice, right? Which is formed in the hepatocyte and poured into the bile canaliculi, from where it goes to the common bile duct, and along with the cystic duct, it goes there and finally forms the common bile duct, where it from where it enters the duodenum. So the filling of the gallbladder, here is the gallbladder. How the gallbladder is filled? It is controlled by the pressure gradient. So during the interdigestive period, so where there will not be any food and nothing to digest, so there will not be any signal coming from the gastrointestinal tract. So during this interdigestive period, the sphincter of Oddi, here is the sphincter of Oddi. So it is closed, so the bile will not come into the duodenum. So it will move towards the gallbladder. So the pressure rises to 7 centimeter of water. So as the sphincter of Oddi is closed, so the bile will not be moving, so it will fill the gallbladder. So the emptying, how it happens? The filling happens by the contraction of the sphincter of Oddi. The emptying happens during the digestive period. So the sphincter body receives signal and it gets relaxed. So the pressure in the gallbladder rises to 20 centimeter of water. So from there it also gets contracted and the bile enters the bile duct, common bile duct, and it reaches the duodenum as the sphincter body is open. Release of bile is controlled by the hormones cholecystokinin, the fat and the protein digestion products. It stimulates the secretion of the cholecystokinin. So this cholecystokinin causes the contraction of the gallbladder and also relaxation of the sphincter of Ford. So it does two functions, right? Remember, the fat and the protein products, they cause the contraction of, so they cause the release of the cholecystokinin, and the cholecystokinin causes the contraction of the gallbladder and relaxation of the sphincter of body. And then the neural control is by the vagal stimulation, the 10th cranial nerve. During the gastric phase of digestion, it causes the vagal stimulation causes the contraction of the gallbladder. And then cholicogo, so these are the substance which causes the contraction of the gallbladder. Functions of the gallbladder, so it regulates the equalization of pressure in the biliary system. Effect on pH of bile. The gallbladder, due to the rapid absorption of the bicarbonate, the pH of the bile is decreased from 8 to 7 approximately. The concentration of the bile, it becomes thicker, viscous, and darker in color. So the mucosa of the gallbladder is extensively folded and they can actively absorb the fluid and the electrolytes. Here the water content is decreased. Storage of bile. So the bile secreted during the interdigestive period is stored in the gallbladder, right? The gallbladder typically stores 50 ml up to 50 ml of bile. During meals, this gallbladder contracts and it releases the bile into the duodenum. Secretion of mucus. Here happens um, the secretion of mucin, which is added to the bile which is stored in the gallbladder. So this mucin, they act as a lubricant in the intestine for the chyme. Applied aspects: edema. Edema occurs due to the hyperproteinemia, especially the albumin. Hemorrhagic disorders can occur due to the lack of the clotting factor synthesis. Fatty liver due to excess intake of the cholesterol foods. Steatorrhea, this is defective fat digestion and absorption, most importantly due to the low bile salt concentration in the bile. So non-absorption of the fat products. So in the motion, the fat products will be excreted, undigested and unabsorbed. Hormonal excess, so due to as the reduction of the hormone not happen in the damaged liver. Deficiency symptoms can occur as the vitamins are stored here, vitamin A, B12 or fats are stored here. So the deficiency symptoms can occur. Jaundice or icterus, it refers to the yellowish discoloration of the skin and the mucous membrane. due to the rise levels of bilirubin in the blood. The normal value of the bilirubin is below 1 milligram per deciliter. So in jaundice, the serum bilirubin level becomes more than 2 milligram per deciliter. If it is in between 1 and 2, it is subclinical jaundice. So for the jaundice to appear, so to get the clinical jaundice, the bilirubin level must be more than 2 milligram per deciliter. If it is between it, there will not be any clinical appearance of the jaundice will be there. Pathophysiology of the jaundice. Jaundice, there are three types of jaundice. One is the prehepatic, or otherwise it is called as hemolytic jaundice, which is due to the lysis of the RBC. So in case of any transfusion reactions, sickle cell anemia, thalassemia, autoimmune disease, which causes damage to the RBC. This is the hemolytic jaundice. Hepatic jaundice, it is also called as hepatocellular jaundice. It occurs due to the damage to the hepatocytes. So as this is seen in case of the viral hepatitis, cirrhosis, and also in some drug-induced hepatitis, hepatoma, the cancer of the liver, and then post-hepatic jaundice, or it is also called as obstructive jaundice. So this is when there is a blockage in the bile duct. This can be either due to stone or any growth. The carcinoma also can cause. So the breakage of the RBC, what happens after 120 days? The life cycle of the erythrocyte gets over. So after 120 days, the erythrocytes ruptures, and the mononuclear phagocyte system that causes the phagocytosis, and the Kupffer cell does the phagocytosis of the broken erythrocyte. So the hemoglobin is converted. So as the RBC is destroyed already after 120 days, and then the hemoglobin gets converted into a biliverdin. So before that, the globulins are released, right? So globulins are released, and it is released as amino acid into the blood. And the heme part, from them, the iron part is that gets moved. Some of the iron is stored in the liver itself as ferritin and hemosiderin, and then the bile pigment from the heme group is absorbed as bile. So not directly as bile, but as biliverdin, bilirubin, and bile. Here, the conjugation of the bilirubin also happens in the liver, and this bile gets released into the intestine, and they get converted into the bile pigment by the bacteria in the intestine. Hence, that is this bile pigment is very important, which gives the color to the feces. Bilirubin metabolism and the excretion. So most of the bilirubin is formed by the breakdown of the hemoglobin. Bilirubin is bound to the albumin in the circulation, and free bilirubin enters into the liver cell, the hepatocytes, and bound to the cytoplasmic protein ligand, and gets conjugated into glucuronic acid by the enzyme, glucuronyl transferase to form the bilirubin diglucuronide. And this bilirubin diglucuronide, which is water soluble, is transported into the bile canaliculi. Bilirubin diglucuronide gets converted into stercobilinogen by the bacterial flora which is in the intestine, and 80% of the bilirubin gets converted into stercobilin, which gives the brown color to the stool, and 20% enters the enterohepatic circulation, and again it reaches the liver. It reaches the liver and forms the liver bile, and some enters the plasma. Through the plasma, it reaches the kidney in the form of urobilinogen and gets excreted in the urine. This is another representation of the bilirubin metabolism. Here the hemolysis happens. So along with the albumin, the unconjugated bilirubin enters the liver. The green color is the liver, the hepatocyte. So the unconjugated bilirubin gets converted into the conjugated bilirubin and gets into the biliary system through the bile duct into the small intestine. From the small intestine, so this conjugated bilirubin gets converted into stercobilin and urobilinogen with the help of the bacterial flora in the intestine, and 90% gets removed from the circulation, and it is excreted in the feces. 10% reaches the hepatocyte and then finally to the blood and gets removed as urobilinogen through the urine. Liver function tests. So assessing the extent of the functional damage to the hepatocytes, diagnosing the cause of the hepatic insufficiency, and to assess the progress in the regress of the liver diseases. So there are different tests to assess the function functions of the test. There are, let us see them one by one. Test to assess the secretory function, serum bilirubin. There are total serum bilirubin level, conjugated bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin. So using the bilirubin level and the type of the bilirubin, we can identify the cause of the jaundice. Urine bilirubin and bile salt will also help. Urine urobilinogen, fecal stercobilinogen. So all these things can help to assess the secretory functions. Tests to assess the metabolic function test, galactose tolerance test, blood glucose level, blood and urine amino acids level, lipid profile. Test to assess the synthesis function, the estimation of the plasma proteins, serum liver enzymes level. We can assess SGPT, SGOT, and alkaline phosphatase, blood urea level. So liver converts the ammonia and forms the urea. Blood ammonia level and the coagulation factors. Test to assess the detoxification function. The brome sulfathalane excretion test is done. Test to assess the hepatic cellular integrity. The ultrasound helps to detect the cirrhosis of the liver, fatty liver, if there is any abscess, tumor, gallstones. and the dilatation of the biliary system if there is any obstruction in it, and also the computer tomography scan. Test to assess the hepatic cellular integrity, and the other test of the radionucleotide imaging, liver biopsy, FNAC, cholecystography, and also the percutaneous cholangiography, portal venography, endoscopic retrograde cholangiography. So all these tests helps to assess the hepatocytes. So the books to read: Hindu Purana, Ganong, G.K. Paul, and Guyton. Thank you.